Are you ready?
Good news, everyone!
I'm the surprise in your cereal box. I'm
great! Everybody else sucks!
I said, are you ready?
Yes, sir, random kid I just met.
It's Jake Ciely.
Hooray! People are paying attention to me.
That's right. You're always blaming me.
So, my reputation exceeds me.
It's time to check the link.
Oh, wait, you serious? Let me laugh even harder.
You know what? You just made the list!
It's all in football.
Sure, we talk about it all the time.
Really?
No, burn.
What is up, you ducks? It's all in football on FTN Fantasy. I gotta tell you, Chris, that music, like, no matter how angry I get before the show, I just, my mood instantly changes with listening to that intro every single time.
It always fires me up. I like, nobody can see me, but I'm in the back. I'm beating drums.
See?
I'm ready to go.
You.
Yeah, and happy Wednesday, everybody. Let's rock. Yes.
Yes, happy Wednesday, because I was bitching about the Mets before we came on, because catching fire at the right time just to hit the wild card, and the Dodgers on a short staff. Screw the Mets, step right up and
could, you know what? It could be
Mets.
worse. Listen, I cheer for the Angels.
No, can't.
I've watched every single game from Mike Trout.
Oh, of course, it could always be relatively worse. I mean, it could be the Nationals.
Postseason ball, right? Whatever.
Yeah, they could have sat there. They had a 7-game division. I told you I wasn't going to talk about it. Just look at my tweet of how epic of a collapse. It's top 3 epic collapse. It's not the most epical of, I'm going to make that a word, of collapses, like the one year where they dropped it to the Phillies. But anyway, because we're talking Week 5 rankings. That's what we're here to talk about.
Yes.
100% fantasy football. Although burgers. I did burger rankings this. Do you have any really good burger places? Fast food, Chris. So fast food casual, like Five Guys, the In-N-Out crowd that are out of their damn minds for how overrated that burger is. Like all those stuff. Do you have anything like up in Canada? Like that's maybe not. I'm not saying like, oh, do you have a McDonald's in Canada? But I was like because Culver's is regional stuff. Like, do you have anything up there that's kind of like, you know?
We have Five Guys, and Five Guys is on the top of my list. I love Five Guys. We have Wahlburgers, which is okay. It's all right. I was a little kind of let down the first time I had it.
The Mark Wahlberg thing.
Yeah.
Brothers and stuff like that. Okay.
Yeah. It's not bad. It's a nice little setup. I mean, you could buy booze in there too. It's got like a decent vibe. It's pretty pricey, but you know, they have some okay burgers there. Shake Shack, I wish we would have. I just tried that for the first time last year when I went to.
It's good, but my problem with them is their chickens. I like their chicken sandwich more, which is kind of like.
I haven't had their chicken sandwich. I had their burger, and it was phenomenal. But the people I was with really hyped it up, so like that's tough. You know, when it's hyped up, you're expecting it just to be the best thing you've ever had, and it clearly wasn't. I think I liked Five Guys more, but it's there in the top.
My problem with Five Guys, and I said this in the article, is every single time I go there, it feels like the prices went up another $1.
Like everything in.
Holy crap! Now. 2 burgers, fries, and drinks for you and somebody else is like, oh, did I go to Outback or did I go to Five Guys? Why is my bill $53? What the hell just happened?
Yeah, I mean, everything, man. Everything is just jumping up in price. Fast foods, McDonald's doesn't really count, but I've noticed like one of my go-tos up here is A&W. A&W, I believe, is just a Canadian thing.
Yeah, here I'll tell you. You know what's better than Five Guys? Mooyah Burgers. It's not. It's kind of moving through the country. It's regional still as of right now. It's Five Guys with still more reasonable price, more options, and I didn't rate fries. Like fries wasn't part of the equation, but they have sweet potato fries too. But Week 5 rankings is what we're talking about. I just sidebarred. It's entirely 4 minutes in. No football yet, but go to FTN. Code all in, get you 20% off. Go to The Athletic. Check out the waivers. Check out the rankings. And if you ask who you start over who you start, check the link. As always, it's Week 5, Chris. Starting to get a little bit of those. A lot of running back situations. I'm going to kind of pull Thursday night football. There's so much going on with Thursday night football that I'm going to kind of just pivot on that one so people can kind of skip past it. So I'm going to save that for a few seconds. But first, I'm talking about Josh Jacobs. You know what Josh Jacobs feels like to me, Chris? It's the football with Charlie Brown. Lucy's sitting there holding it. We're running up. It's like, oh my God, the passing game use is happening again. 2 games in a row, 6 targets. I believe, wasn't it 5 receptions in both of them? It's happening the past 2 weeks. The usage is there the past 2 weeks, but there's been banged up Brandon Bolden. This is still Josh McDaniels. Is Josh Jacobs in our circle of trust as a top 15 running back, Chris?
Ooh, I don't know about long term, but I think this week, yeah, I really do. In an up-tempo game against the Chiefs are going to score points. I mean, they just went up against a Bucs team that has been pretty stout on defense this season before that game, and they were able to move the ball pretty easily. And I've watched a lot of Raider games this year, and in fact, I've watched them all. I have a couple shares of certain dudes that I'd like to see produce a little bit more. Derek Carr, this is your opportunity, bud. You're going to have to go toe-to-toe with Mahomes, but I think so. Something that I've been saying, on some of my shows is just I feel like the Raiders should use Josh Jacobs more, and they did in that scenario last week. 28
Has that been his entire career?
Yeah, you're right. Use Josh Jacobs more. He's such a good running back. I mean, he's always among the leaders in forced missed tackles. He can catch, and he doesn't really get those opportunities. But to your point, I mean, 10 grabs in the last 2 weeks is phenomenal for Josh Jacobs, and double-digit carries in every single game. But even not a ton, right? 10 for 57. That's great. 5.7 yards per carry. That's great. Maybe use him a little bit more. 13 for 66, 5.1 last week. 28 for $144, 5.1, 2 scores. Yeah, I think he's a top 15 running back. And if they get behind, I believe he is going to be catching some passes. Maybe it was just a Belichick thing, even though McDaniels runs the offense and all those backs.
Yeah. And
Jacobs is clearly the best back. Keep him on the field.
We've been saying that for how many years? I mean, we did this a couple years ago in week 1 when we said, oh, my God, look at all the passing game use. And then that was it.
Pace for X amount of catches, and then there was nothing else. I know.
That was it for the rest of the Yeah. Oh, my God. I just realized you can't even, see, so this T-shirt, as I try to lean in, it says, these are not the droids you were looking for. Because it's the different droids. Like there's Data, and, hey, there's Johnny 5. Johnny 5 is alive.
That's the only one I notice. It's a little dark on my end. My screen's dark.
I know. Well, there's the Danger Will Robinson. Danger Will. That one. Wait, what was the maid's name?
Always coming in sharp.
What was the maid's name from the Jetsons? Why can't I think of her name?
Oh,
anyway,
man.
Yeah, exactly.
Somebody here watching will have it.
Yeah, somebody will have it. All right, let's talk about Thursday Night Football so people watching after Thursday can just skip right past this and get to it. But for Thursday night, both sides of the field, it's insane right now. So the Broncos, though, this one has a little bit more clarity, but let's start with there because there's no Javonte Williams done for the year, in case anybody missed that news. Melvin Gordon, banged up, but sounds like he should be fine. There was also a report yesterday, Chris, that said going to get all he can handle, which makes us kind of say, is it not going to be a 50-50 split like it has been, even 60-40? And Mike Boone is not a timeshare piece. Maybe even Latavius Murray, if they don't like that Mike Boone was also fumbling and not doing well in the passing game, whatever it might be. Does anything from yesterday make you think anything differently from what you thought already with Melvin Gordon and no Javonte Williams?
Yeah, I think a couple of things I'd like
to say.
Thank you,
Fox. Rosie. Thank you, Fox.
Rosie. Yeah, Fox all over it. Okay. I think Mike Boone's a trap.
And Basemans.
Mike
Boone?
I think he's a trap. Long term, I think this is going to be the opportunity to play him. I think the better long term pickup is Latavius. I think Latavius is a better running back. They brought him in. I think he's, if I'm looking long term of those two guys, it's Latavius.
I don't mean to cut you off real quick. Let me ask you real quick on Latavius Murray, because Lauren said similarly yesterday, and I said, is it he had basically one really good performance for the Ravens last year, and then kind of looked like we were all sitting here, well, Latavius Murray lost it. Okay. So it's just
that's it. It's more like Boone is not great, and clearly they brought in a veteran back. I'm sure they want to have as many pieces as they can, especially with Melvin Gordon fumbling and things like that. But I think it's more so that Boone is I see people in the fantasy community free Mike Boone. Come on, guys. I don't think there's anything really there with Mike Boone. That's why they brought in Latavius Murray, who's a veteran back, and I think he will offer more in case Melvin Gordon goes down. But I do believe this is Melvin Gordon's backfield now. It could be a 70-30 if he really struggles. But they brought him back. They liked him. He's the veteran back, right? Nobody really wanted Denver to bring back Melvin Gordon so we could see Javonte Williams have a full workload. And heading into the season, they said they were going to ride the hot hand. It was going to be a split again with both of these guys. So now that Javonte is gone, I think, Melvin Gordon is an RB2. And hopefully he can just hang on to the ball, because I do believe that maybe he will be on a short leash. Like that. That's
are those Mike Boone people the same ones that were putting James Cook in the Hall of Fame already as soon as he was drafted by the Bills? They're the same people.
It's crazy. A lot of people really liked Cook heading into the season. That's for sure. That's all I'll say about that.
Just leave it.
I put up a poll and he was like the most voted of any rookie running back. Kenneth Walker was in there as well. Not that it was crazy about Walker, but who is a potential league winner? I wanted people to pick Pierce, and everyone just picked Cook. It's like 40%.
Landslide, and I'm guessing that Isaiah Pacheco was number 2.
Yeah, of course.
Or Pacheco. Yeah, this is like. I'm sorry.
Even,
let me. I forgot their real names. It's James Barkley and Isaiah Sanders.
Yeah, Sanders, good one. Yeah, for different pronunciations for Pacheco. Even on the broadcast,
I just told you, Sanders
in one sentence. Yeah, we'll just call him.
Or maybe Isaiah Dickerson. They apparently.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Let's talk about the Colts side of it. We all expect Jonathan Taylor not to play because even though it sounds like he avoided something serious, I mean, short week, why not? I mean, why not? But we've seen teams do crazier things before. If Jonathan Taylor plays, it's kind of like one of those things where your hands are tied. You have to start Jonathan Taylor. Like nobody's going to bench Jonathan Taylor unless you're in like a 6-team league and you have insane options. But if no Jonathan Taylor, as we expect, Nyheim Hines is kind of in that. It's the Kenneth Gainwell situation you and I sat here and talked about last year and said, no, it's going to be Boston Scott, everybody, and then it was. I do think Hines, unlike Gainwell last year, could handle a little bit more, and they would plan him to evolve a little bit more. But Deion Jackson, Philip Lindsay's on the practice squad, probably gets elevated. But do you even mess around? This doesn't feel like Boston Scott from last year where there's a clear choice between those two. I think it would be those two siphoning off the other 50%, and Nyheim Hines is just the play.
Yeah, I think so too. I think it's Hines to see a little bit of Dion there, but we've seen this before, have we not? It's a couple years ago. I still believe it was under the Frank Reich offense when Taylor missed a game or two. We saw Nyheim Hines. I think a lot of people. I think it was early on in the season actually. Hines had a nice couple games and he was a hot waiver wire pickup, and then it was just the Jonathan Taylor show. But I think he's a back that could get 10 to 12 carries here on this Thursday short week. I think that they could trust him to give him 10 to 12 carries and keep him on the field as a couple targets. So he would be the guy that I would, if I'm rolling out one Colt, he's the guy.
One running back Colt, to be clear, because I do want to pull in. There's a one running back Colt, to be clear. Like you're not saying you're.
Oh yeah, I play Pittman.
Well, and because I want to ask you about that because people are worried about Pittman, and I was like, why? Question mark. Like half. So he went nuts in week 1, and then second week was kind of hurt.
Well, he didn't play.
The week 3, or was it week 2?
Yeah,
it was week.
I think he didn't
3.
play
He was
week
hurt.
2.
Oh, was it week 2? Am I misremembering? Either way, not 100%. And then apparently he got banged up again in week 4. Like there was a report that he kind of nagging injury type of situation. So you're not point being, you're not worried about Michael Pittman.
I'm not worried about. No, obviously the only worries that I would have is that I just like to see him on the field and hopefully he's healthy and he's not just playing through something. Because he missed week 2, he came back week 3, he was fantastic. In the first half of last week, he was great as well. I was like, oh man, I'm going to get this receiving yard prop again, and it was like, where was he? He's nowhere to be found in the second half, but. I'm not worried about him. If he's active, he's playing. I'm seeing minus 1% ownership on him in Yahoo League. So it's like someone I think in an 8-team league that probably said, no, screw this guy. He's really good. When he plays, he's going to get all the targets. One guy to keep an eye on, and I don't think I would play him. I just have a lot of shares. I draft him in your flex league. And is Alec Pierce. I don't think I would play him, but he needs to be
Why
rostered.
not? He led the team last week.
Yeah, and it's been he's got 140 yards in the last 2 weeks. I think he's got double-digit targets in the last 2 weeks. The first week, I kept a close eye on him because I just mentioned I drafted him in some spots. He had 2 targets. Both were inside the red zone. One he dropped. Another one was just a bad throw. And then week 2, he had the concussion, didn't play. He's somebody to keep an eye on. I think he should be owned. His receiving yard prop's 33.5 tomorrow. I like it.
I have Alec Pierce right behind. I'm going to save one of the names, but I have him right behind Devontae Parker, Devin Duvernay, who we're going to talk about because of that situation. Isaiah McKenzie, Tyler Boyd, Darnell Mooney. The one name right in front of him. Well, no. The one name right in front of him, and I think I'm going to move him in front of him because this year, we talk about this every year. Yes, I am extremely accurate, Chris, in rankings. Everybody knows this Fantasy Pros, and I'm not sitting here to toot my own horn. But and I'm not calling anybody specifically out because I don't know specifically who does and doesn't do it. But there are people who play the game at Fantasy Pros to try to finish higher.
Sure.
I don't like doing that because I'm telling you how I'm setting my lineup. And if I'm going to be honest, and I'm sitting here looking at my rankings, the one name in front of him, and I think if it's my roster, and I'm going to have to update my rankings today, I think I'm playing Alec Pierce over Allen Robinson.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you.
Okay.
I told people on Mean Streets yesterday, you just can't play him. I'm fine with holding him unless you're in a 10-team league. I think even in a 10-team league, you may be able to cut him. But the way that offensive line looked over the weekend, and what do they got a matchup here against the boys? Oh, man. They're going to be bringing the heat on Matthew Stafford. So we haven't seen anything from Allen Robinson. I don't hate that at all.
Who just lost another center, who as soon as the center went out in that game, if everybody stopped tuning in to that nonsense, which what it was, which is just the Cooper Kupp show versus the Rams versus the 49ers, might as well be versus the Rams. As soon as that center, I don't remember his name, but as soon as he went down, oh my God, it was literally like hike the ball and somebody was in Stafford's face.
And Stafford too. I don't know if I feel actually pretty confident. I wouldn't roll this guy out either. In a single quarterback league, he's finished his quarterback 29, 30.
Well, okay. You know what? I was going to save the quarterbacks for later. So real quick, let's talk the Rams because we're on the Rams right here. Because I was kind of good. I was doing running back, wide receiver, and I had a perfect transition of a player to go from running back to wide receiver and then finish with quarterback. But we're on quarterback, so let's do it.
Yeah.
Stafford. Oh, my God. Looks terrible. He was in the waiver column the second time of the Ducks. I put him in there. Allen Robinson, I said you officially can drop Allen Robinson if there's other options out there. But here's the question of Stafford. And I'm going to include 3 quarterbacks in this. Stafford, Tannehill hasn't been very good. Saved one of his games with a rushing touchdown. Kirk Cousins has been not even last year Kirk Cousins, which is Kevin O'Connell was supposed to open things up and make him even better. But he's actually been – he and Derek Carr have been in that, 14, 15, 16, like Trevor Lawrence, miserable game with all the fumbles and the weather. But if you look at the other 2 games before that, and then week 1's kind of shake, like Trevor Lawrence is in that same conversation with Derek Carr and Cousins. So I pulled Cousins into this because I'm saying Stafford, Tannehill, and Cousins. At this point, Chris, I'm not talking about this week. Stop looking at the schedule. I just want to say, make this decision now, today. Because, because you laugh because the schedule, I see people are. Because I see people already tweeting about the final 4 weeks of the playoff or the fantasy season, the schedule. Do you know how much changes within a season? I reference it all the time. Go back a couple of years. The Saints went from one of the best to one of the worst, and the Giants went one of the worst to one of the best in the same year. And I only remember this because, Chris, and I always reference it, everybody's like, oh my God, Julio Jones faces the Saints 2 of the last 3 weeks of the fantasy season. Everybody's like, trade Julio Jones. And then by that point of the season, the Saints were miserable. And it was just go off against the Saints.
Exactly.
Yeah, and then the Giants flipped that year. So anyway, I bring that up to say that's why I'm not looking at the schedules. Stafford, Tannehill, and Cousins. Are they officially now all 3 behind? Are we bringing them into the circle? Are we putting the big arms around them? The trust arms? Are we doing it? Geno and Goff.
Oh, man. I would play Geno and Goff over Tannehill and
Stafford.
Maybe Stafford the rest of the way. I still think that there's room for Cousins to grow. He still has that alpha, right? And that's part of it with Stafford. He's like, the only reason he's given you fantasy points is because he's got a guy like Cooper Kupp. That's really it. Cooper Kupp didn't score a touchdown last week, and that's all he's giving you. And I just gave you even with Cooper Kupp balling out, he's finished his quarterback 29, 29, and 30 in 3 of his 4 weeks. So, great.
Exactly.
And the line's trash and the elbows may be an issue. So I would give the benefit of the doubt to Cousins that he could maybe figure this out with a new head coach in place. Maybe it's going to take a couple weeks.
Over Goff and
Geno? Seeing with Carr as well. Yes, over Geno. I actually don't mind Goff, man. He is slinging it. The defense is probably the worst in the NFL. They played the over in every single game that they played, and it's not even close. When Amon-Ra comes back, he's got a great guy in Amon-Ra. Jameson Williams could return here at some point. Yeah, Goff is just, hey, this is it, man. It's fantasy football. And Jared Goff ahead of Stafford the rest of the way, it's just not even really close to me.
Okay.
Crazy. I said that.
Is Lawrence? I mentioned Trevor Lawrence. I would take Trevor Lawrence over
all those guys too,
including Cousins. I think he's in the same bucket as Cousins.
Yes, very close. Like that's the same tier. Very, very close.
And
I don't hate it.
I gotta tell you, I maybe I'm gonna be late to the party, but it's kind of like it's 4 weeks. But included in those 4 weeks was week 1 and 2 of Geno, so it's not a real 4 weeks. Like I don't know if I'm ready. I think Geno, Cousins, and Lawrence are in the same bucket, and we've officially now said that Jared Goff is inside the circle. And he's in the. This is basically Sean McVay version of Jared Goff before defenses figured him out.
Yeah, absolutely. It really is. Geno is definitely surprised me. I thought he would be the guy over Drew Lock. You know, he understood the playbook, and you know, in that 4-game sample size, it was a very small one, but he looked pretty good. He looked decent. At least he was throwing to DK. DK had a very good game last week. We talked about, you know, whether we would feel good about starting him or not. He was great. Lockett has been a target machine.
His over-under in yards was 62.5, and I smashed the under. And then in that one freaking play where Okudah was just like, oh, there he goes. Yeah. Like, I was like, thank you for that one play just blowing up my entire over-under.
The one thing I will say about Geno is that he's doing a good job. He's getting the ball to his playmakers, right? We're sitting here wondering if Allen Robinson's going to get any more targets this year.
All right, well then here, let me ask you this.
And DK, they just eat, man. They get looks.
This is tied to fantasy. It's kind of more real NFL. Like, let me ask you this. Let me put the question out there because we're watching it happen. At this point of their career, is Geno better than Russ?
Huh. I don't
look at the performances on the field.
If I look at the tape and the statistics, I would tell you, yeah, if I was just new to football and I'd say, you know, I've just watched the film on both guys side by side, I'd say, yeah, I would say.
If you were in a freaking cryogenic chamber with Fry from Futurama and they didn't set it to 3000 and they instead set it to 2022, week 4 of the fantasy football season, and you woke up and watched, you'd be like, oh, who's this Geno guy? He looks better than Russell Wilson.
He looks better than half the league. He looks better than Super Bowl winning quarterback Matthew Stafford from 12.
I will say Russell Wilson finally looked good last week. It was a good matchup.
And it was a get-right game for him. Yeah.
Okay.
Let's see what he can do this week in a short week. And now he's dealing with the shoulder thing, I think, but he'll be fine.
Okay. All right. Before we get back to running backs, let's just get them out of the way. Let's talk tight ends. No, I'm just kidding. It doesn't matter who your tight ends are. Let's continue. It's just there's like 5 or 6 guys. If it's not I will say that I asked Lauren yesterday at Kyle Pitts. There's no way you're dropping him, right?
Mm-mm.
Okay. Well,
I'm not dropping him, but I could see somebody who maybe picked up like Njoku or a Higbee and want to play them over Pitts for now. But this could be the week where I'd say he gets more than one grab this week against the Bucs. They're gonna have to throw the football.
I mean, he's got to have more than one grab.
I don't know where you have him ranked, but he's like a tight end 9 or 10 for me this week.
I have him at 10. I'll tell you right now. We just said we're not talking tight ends, but I have him at 11. Just in front of him, Freiermuth, or as Pat calls him, a Firemouth, Freiermuth for me. Everett, because Everett, I'm playing the Everett game until Parham's 100%. And Keenan, once that team's 100% healthy, but until then, I'll play the Everett game. And then Kittle, Hockenson, Goddard, Waller, and up from there. Do you have any concerns about Waller? I don't, because it's been 2 fine games and 2 bad games. And I said this, Chris, and the reason I asked you was because it's the perception thing. And I always talk about perception and trade values. And so this is from somebody who was down on Waller. I had Waller as my tight end 6 coming into this year, because I was worried what Adams and Renfrow wasn't going away. Renfrow's actually been hurt the last 2 weeks, but still Waller's been Waller.
Yeah, the 2 weeks ago he had 2 drops inside the red zone. Uncharacteristic, really, for him. I mean, he's a really good player in the NFL, and if he catches one of those, we're not even really talking about Waller. But somebody asked me last week, Waller and Njoku, and I told them Waller, and I was wrong about that. But this is a game that I feel like is going to be a high-scoring game. Kansas City's going to score some points. Well, I think this is your opportunity to buy low on Waller if you want to. I would trade an Everett. You just throw it Everett. Maybe you could throw it at Everett and I don't know, some other random wide receiver you're not playing for Waller. That'd be a win.
I mean, you could probably do the same thing with Kyle Pitts. Let me ask you this one going forward, because it's in the chat and I already saw it before. Mr. Nice Guy, if you could send Pitts for Higbee, would you take Higbee?
Oh.
He's their number 2.
I know he really is.
And for everybody out there asking about Van Jefferson and Odell Beckham and helping and unlocking the offense, no, they don't play offensive line. So
exactly. Van Jefferson is going to be useless in this offense because they're not going to be able to stretch the field. There's not enough time for Stafford.
Even if
I would consider
that's what I was going to
move,
say. Even if he get 30 yards downfield by that point, like it's not enough time.
There. Yeah, and Higbee is getting a lot of looks, and I think that probably continues. It's a move that I don't really feel comfortable making myself. I think I would just be patient with Pitts. But by all means, maybe you want to do something
yesterday
like
morning around 9:30, I saw both J.J. Zachariason and Josh Norris both said that Higbee is this year's Dalton Schultz.
Which, like, is what?
Last year. Tight end 3?
Yeah.
Last year.
Oh, okay. Higbee is. Sorry.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't think he's going to be top 3, though. I still like Ertz and Hawkinson and Goddard over.
That clock is ticking. Hopkins is 2 weeks away for Ertz. Get out on Marquise Brown quick.
No, don't sell Hollywood. He's gonna be fine. He's not
gonna be top 15.
He's gonna be a wide receiver, low end wide receiver 2. He's gonna have a better season.
Yes,
than Hopkins.
exactly. Okay, but you just said low end wide receiver 2. He has top 15. People are treating him as top 15. Not everybody out there.
I wouldn't trade him. Keep him. He's a stud.
You wouldn't?
No. I was big on him heading into the year. You know that. I loved him. I loved him heading in.
If you can
He's
get
have
top
a bit of a
15,
downtick, a little bit. What are you going to get for him? Who's top 15? Who is supposed to be top 15 that's not that could be? You want DJ Moore?
A 1 for 1? What? Nope. Why are you picking up people that should be on waivers that you should just drop? You're like,
what top 15?
Right here. I'll tell you right now. Let's bet today. Diontae Johnson. I would take Diontae Johnson. Now, but here's the thing is you can get additional for Diontae Johnson. Diontae Johnson today, once Hopkins is back.
No.
Okay. So you're making that bet with me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Hollywood
so
better season. What do you want to do? Like from week 7 on, who has a better season?
Yeah, as soon as Hopkins is back. Okay. I don't even care if Hopkins is slow to get back into the mix.
I'm worried about
I would take Chris Godwin.
I wouldn't.
I would take Michael Pittman. He's only like wide receiver 35 right now.
Sure. Pittman was the guy that I had projected higher than Hollywood. Yeah, I'm with you on that one. Pittman.
Okay. I'm trying to think of like anybody else that's like not top 15 right now.
Maybe Hopkins is dust.
No,
he was last year. He looked a little slow. He was very touchdown dependent.
And he was still like wide receiver 18, even being slow last year.
That's it. Hollywood's gonna be guys. Don't move Hollywood. He's good. He's good to go.
Don't move Hollywood, but list everything that I just said, except you can get Michael Pittman.
Let's talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers offense. I don't know why. Maybe Diontae?
No, because I had a transition for that. No, I run the show. Wait, we're gonna get to that. I do like your Teenage Mutant Ninja.
I get too amped up. I get too excited.
I like your Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle shirt, by the way. I will give you that.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah. Oh baby.
That's good. Oh, you have even the classic cartoon faces on it too. Old school. You might want to shrink that a little bit. Now you just pulled it. Like you gotta give yourself a V-neck there.
Here we go.
There you go. All right. So the Falcons situation. This is another one.
Oh yeah.
And this is coming. Tyler Algier. You've been team Tyler Algier. You can go back to the preseason. I was as well for stashing him. However, here's the concern. Caleb Huntley got all the green zone work, goal to go. Inside the 5, got all that as well. So goal line, for everybody out there, when you see these two terms, just in case, goal to go is goal to go inside the 10. But if you see goal line, that means now you're inside the 5 because they try to break down the discrepancy there because you might get different use. And that's on top of red zone, which you know what red zone is. But that being said, Caleb Huntley got all of it inside the 10. Does that concern you for Algier? And then is there a chance that we don't run this team, Chris? Is there a chance that Caleb Huntley ends up being the answer and not Algier, and Algier just stays being Algier? I just said a lot of Algier.
You did. I think the latter is possible. I think actually all of that is possible. I think Huntley could be a pain in his ass. Like that's certainly possible. And we could see him get a majority of the goal line work. It's possible that they play the hot hand too right away. This is an awful matchup. Let's be honest. This is as worse as it can be, almost really going up against the Bucs right away. I mean, they're dogs. It's a team that hasn't really thrown the football. So what are the Bucs thinking here?
They just let Edwards-Helaire and Pacheco go ham on them.
They did, but you got a quarterback in Mahomes who can stretch the field. So they're just going to be like, go ahead, Mariota. You don't even like Kyle Pitts, so we know you're not throwing the football over there. I think it could be a hot hand scenario, but I believe in Algier to be the guy over the next 4 weeks. I think he's more skilled. I see some people talking about, no vision. I don't know if I fully agree with that. He can catch to the backfield. We saw some red zone touches from him in his first 2 NFL games with Cordero on the field, so I don't think it's a lock. I would play him over Caleb, but I don't love him this week. Like, I think he's a flex play at best.
Well, I definitely have him as a flex play.
Yeah.
Can we start the clock? We got Pickett. Can we get Ritter? Can we just move on? Like, thanks, Mariota. You held the game. You held
but
serve.
They're winning games.
Well, that's because they run the ball 850 times a week. The other team,
they're gonna lose this week. When could the change happen? I don't know.
I don't look at the schedule because I mentioned that the other day.
They're gonna lose their next 3 games.
Well, as I say, we could look at the schedule and try to play this game, and the logic would have pointed to if people play like the whole you don't want to start versus this, and you want to do it at home or versus the blah blah blah. And if you looked at the Steelers' schedule, you would have said, hold on to the Steelers. Like the Pickett probably would have happened in 2 weeks because of the schedule for the next 2 weeks. He's got the Bills.
Tomlin had enough.
Tomlin
just had enough.
And that's what I'm saying. Like they might have enough. Mariota might go out there and stink in the first half and be like, all right, we're done with this. He's not doing anything. We're winning games, but he's not doing anything. Anyway, all right. So let's go to the Washington Commanders because I'm super buy low window. Here's the buy low window. Like this, the window was open this much for Eckler, and you missed it because boom, done, over. Yeah. I think the same is for Terry McLaurin. This is why, Chris. Dotson 1 to 2 weeks. I do think I will say this. I think McLaurin's potentially a buy low and immediately sell high in about a week. Like you can do these things. It's stock market. You can make these quick moves, but you know your league. If trades take 7 weeks to happen, you're not in this situation. But Dotson had 4 end zone targets, 4 end zone touchdown receptions. The next closest on the team was McLaurin with 2 end zone targets. Nobody else on the team outside of Dotson even had an end zone touchdown reception. Nobody.
Wild.
So I think this gets McLaurin right, and we get McLaurin back to being a top 25 wide receiver. But again, I think this could change going forward. Or I want to see if you have a counter argument. Do you think that the fact of Diami Brown being involved last week, that it's just going to be Carson Wentz is going to continue to spread the ball around, and maybe it's not. Maybe Terry McLaurin is just a bust of a year this year.
Yeah, man, I still believe in the talent for Terry. It's been tough, man. His last 20 games or so, he's been very inconsistent. I know that part of that has to be on the quarterback play and a lack of weapons kind of helping him like a supporting cast. But I agree with you. I think that this is a buy low opportunity. Curtis Samuel's led the team in targets, I believe, every single week. He's out there, quite a bit, running a lot of routes, has the trust of Carson Wentz. But what you said with Dotson, maybe missing some time here. And Terry's had some tough matchups to start the season, right? So I would buy low, but I would be viewing him a little bit differently. I know he was drafted as a top 20 wide receiver, roughly, as like a wide receiver 2. I would be trying to acquire him if he was like my 3rd or my 4th. Just I would feel a little bit better about that. But yeah, I think you said it perfectly as well. Like highs and lows with Terry. It's been very boom or bust. I think that will continue all year. I think he'll be inconsistent. But if you can get him as your 3rd, that's okay.
Yeah, I think you remember I was off on Terry this year because he peaked, despite having all the volume for the past 2 years, he peaked as wide receiver 20 in PPR.
Yeah,
he was actually wide receiver 38 in PPR, or PPR, in points per game is what I meant to say. All right, so the backfield, though, that's the more interesting thing for sure because Brian Robinson officially activated. Antonio Gibson's snap count down. The passing game snap count holding the same, though.
Yeah,
I'm now get the hell out of here. Like, for the people that are... Like, you can't sell Gibson. You missed that opportunity week 2. You might have had we all knew we were playing the short game with Antonio Gibson. Like, enjoy the RB2 value for 4 weeks, and then it's going to be gone. And I think most leagues knew that. But now I think here's the intriguing part is if you had Brian Robinson, if you held Brian Robinson, I think the sell high windows right now. Because even if he is the lead. Now, Gibson didn't fumble. He was being Gibson, he was doing fine, so he didn't really do anything to deserve to lose the job, but this does look like all the reports say Robinson is going to be back in the mix. But even if he's in the lead, Now it's a full-blown committee. Now we're talking about the Patriots from their worst years. And what was the Patriots in their worst years, Chris? The only person you wanted was James White, who's J.D. McKissick. It's not Brian Robinson. So if you have Brian Robinson, plus you're playing the unknown factor of coming back from an injury, I think you sell high now and get out. And I think you can buy low on Gibson to stash on your bench, because what if Brian Robinson comes back and doesn't do anything? What if they stick with Gibson?
Yeah. Again, you said this perfectly. I think with Gibson's only getting like 10 to 12 carries anyways, right? So it's going to be crowded. Now you add another running back there that they drafted that they liked, and Ron Rivera's had a lot of things to say about Gibson in a negative way. And J.D. McKissick has kept his role. They brought him back. They wanted to keep him back. You know, he plays more snaps when they're down in games, and I don't love the look of this offense at all. So if I'm projecting moving forward, we could see a lot of first and second down opportunities kind of split. And maybe Robinson's the goal line back. And when they're down in games and 2-minute drills and passing situations, it's J.D. McKissick. So it's going to be a very, very crowded backfield. I agree that Gibson is available. I would have sold him after week 1, after that massive showing where he was actually used in the passing game. And you thought, wow, maybe they will use him the way he should. And then it kind of got scaled back a bit. So you could buy Gibson on the cheap, probably to be, you know, a depth piece for you moving forward. And yeah, before Robinson touches the field, people are really excited about him. And if you stash him, you could maybe move on from him.
This is a blanket sell high opportunity for everybody out there. Anytime you have a player like Jameson Williams, I love Jameson Williams, but the week before he comes back, sell high window,
especially, right?
Just everybody always has the best case scenario in their mind. Not everybody. I don't want to say everybody out there. Fantasy managers, there's plenty of smart ones out there. Hell, everybody listen to the show. You are smart. By the way, smash the like, as Pat Mayo would say. Do all that stuff. Subscribe. Help us out. Drop in comments after the show. Ask us questions. We love you guys. But anyway, being said, as soon as people come back from injury, make their season debut, Kenny Pickett. People are losing their minds for Kenny Pickett right now. Like,
I'd make him available.
I'd
make him available my league mates. Yeah,
it's hard to trade for or get value for a tight end. But that being said, it's just, all these are like. Put it this way, Chris. Could you imagine the trade value you would have got if Kyle Pitts was out the first 4 weeks and then was about to debut this week versus actually playing? And that's just what you get. It's like, so just throwing that out there. Here's an interesting one I want to ask about too. J.K. Dobbins looks really good last week. Mm-hmm. Rashad Penny has looked good outside. Like, he's looked good in 2 games. 1 week, stinker, pretty much of a bad matchup, and then looked amazing last week. It was also a really good matchup last week. He is now in a pretty bad matchup this week. So, Dobbins and Penny, we're doing a lot of circle of trust things here today. Yeah. Are they in your circle of trust? Dobbins after 1 really good showing, Penny after looking pretty good most of the year, but bad matchup. Are they both, put them this way, are they both definitively must-start RB2s?
Yeah, I think so. I think Dobbins is certainly in my trust. We both liked him heading into the season. It was just about getting on the field and staying healthy. It was a good first game from him. More snaps, more touches, getting some goal line work, catching a couple passes. So I like Dobbins moving forward. I don't believe that there's like any threat to him losing touches. Penny's a guy that I would consider selling high.
There's one. I saw this in the comments. Gus Edwards, top 20 when he comes. Well, okay. As soon as Gus Edwards is destined to return.
I did see that quote from Haber yesterday that, it's a kind of wait and see with him. So I suppose that Gus could be, an issue moving forward, but I do believe that Dobbins will be the lead here. I think I would consider selling high on Penny, but at the same time, I also believe that he is the lead as well. Ever since Kenneth Walker was back into the lineup, it's been Penny getting the bulk of the work, and he's looked better. So I think he's going to continue to be a lead. I saw a question there, like Gibson Penny. Like, I would flip Gibson for Penny. Like, I would rather have Penny the rest of the way. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. That's really all I can say is circle of trust. I feel a little bit better about Dobbins than I do about Penny. But Penny's getting the work, man.
This episode is brought to you by the Circle of Trust. Has Michael Carter fallen out of the Circle of Trust? Is he officially done? Are we done with Michael Carter at this point? Is this the concern we had immediately after the draft where we poured one out for him and then we got a little bit of value to start the season and then that was it?
Yeah, I think it's the Breece Hall. It just feels like it. We've seen it now for a couple weeks that it's just closer and closer and closer. And I really like the fact that he's got a majority of the goal line work. He's getting in there in red zone packages. When the game was on the line last week, he got that touchdown with a few seconds left against the Steelers. I saw Michael Carter's inside the top 10 in most dropped here in Yahoo leagues over the last 24 hours. if you see him on your waiver wire and you're in a 12 team, I would
That's
grab
the thing.
him.
Stash him.
But I'm not
you can't
starting
start. But like if you see, look, I don't know that I can argue for you to hold on to Henderson as bad as like even Akers looks, and then often. But like we're talking about like Travis Etienne. I can't unless I'm 0-4 and I have to make a win here. I have buys coming up, and I just legitimately have nobody else to drop. Carter, Akers, Etienne, all these people who are definitive number twos. Like these aren't like this isn't Mike Boone. This isn't Caleb Huntley.
Exactly.
Like these are definitive number twos who sometimes have value. Let alone if the lead goes down, we know it's them. We know they are going to be the lead option. Ken Walker should be dropped probably in a lot of leagues, but if something were to happen to Rashad Penny, DJ Dallas would get sprinkled in. Yeah, so that's what I try not to drop those guys. Here is one for you. I just saw. What was it? Made me think. Oh, would you do Antonio Gibson or Michael Carter?
Huh. I'd probably keep Gibson there, but I guess if what you just said, if we're looking at long term here, and something happened to Breece Hall, you would have
Carter show. It
would be all Carter, right? It would be all Carter. Where if something happened to Brian Robinson, we already know it's still J.D. McKissic. We have a look of what things would look like without Robinson. Without Breece Hall, we can go back to last year towards the end of the season. And Michael Carter was a guy who was getting like 6-7 targets and 15 carries. So I guess the answer would be Carter.
And congratulations. It only took 41 minutes of the show for Nathan to finally get the Meet the Fockers Circle of Trust references. I was seeing if he was going to pick up on it. Like, that's of course. Like, yeah of course. Yeah. Hey, can you milk me?
Great
I got
series.
Nipples. I got nipples.
Yeah.
Can you milk me, Fokker?
Meet the Fockers is great. Meet the Parents I liked a lot more, but they're both... Was there a third one? There's a third one. When they have kids. They have kids that are a little bit more grown up. Because she's pregnant in the second one. And the third one, it is with them. There is a third one.
I have to go back and look. I don't know. Anyway, let's continue.
Doesn't really matter.
Speaking of Circle of Trust, Gabe Davis falling out of it. I give him a pass because he's been banged up. Like he's dealing with a hamstring. He's like questionable, played through it. All the insider injuries and all the reports said don't, and he still did.
Yeah.
Hasn't been 100%. I seen some people talking about where he's playing on the field versus he's not 100%. I'm like, right. I want some Gabe Davis. This wide receiver crew is falling apart. Jameson Crowder is out. Not that I'm worried about Jake Kumaro, but the fact that he was playing more than Isaiah McKenzie. Khalil Shakir, who I have a soft spot for. I told you the story about him at the Combine. I like Shakir. I think he's got Debo qualities. I don't think he's Debo Samuel. I think he's got Debo qualities. And I think if there was no Isaiah McKenzie, I would be interested in Shakir. But I think McKenzie needs to go away. That has to happen. And I'm buying low on Gabe Davis. People are like full on, what the hell's wrong with it? He hasn't been healthy. By the way, has nobody called him Shakira? Anyway, go ahead.
Shakira. A bunch of little Fockers.
Khalil Shakira?
That's the third one. Little Fockers. Shakira. I wrote up Gabe Davis as a buy low. Gabe Davis is, I agree with you. He's probably not 100% healthy. He didn't play week 2, but he's playing 98% of the snaps. He played 98% of the snaps, I think, in every single game so far. He's actually out there more than Stephon Diggs and running more routes than Stephon Diggs. But of course, we know Diggs is the number one option and has the highest ceiling inside that offense. But who's number 2? Knox doesn't look that great. McKenzie scored some touchdowns. Carter now broke his ankle, so McKenzie probably gets a little bit more run in the slot. But I am totally with you. This offense is still one of the best in the NFL. Josh Allen is top 3 in passing attempts. The schedule has been really tough for the Buffalo Bills to start the season. It gets much easier moving forward after their bye week. I would buy Gabe Davis now while you can. He's somebody that maybe I would have been like, maybe he has more points in Hollywood. Maybe he has more points in Hollywood when Hopkins comes back. He's somebody. Yeah, but if
you trade Marquise Brown for Gabe Davis, you could get a lot more than just Gabe Davis.
Oh, I would never do it. But
of course not.
You already know.
You wouldn't even trade Hollywood Brown for Cooper Kupp. What are we kidding here? Like, come on.
No, I'd at least want a 7th round pick back in return.
Lee Ving stole my joke. I was going to say, you know what? The hips don't lie, and I was going to move on to the next one. He stole my joke. The Jets wide receivers. So Zach Wilson's first start of the year. This is interesting because it was the Garrett Wilson show for Joe. With Joe Flacco, we knew 2 people. The end. Yeah. Like Elijah Moore was a bust right now. Corey Davis had a touchdown here and there, but it was Garrett Wilson, Tyler Conklin. Garrett Wilson, Tyler Conklin. Joe Flacco throwing 700 times every single game. It was great. We loved it. However, Zach Wilson comes out, and then the distribution kind of flattens. He actually went to Corey Davis, then Garrett Wilson, then Elijah Moore, despite the fact that Elijah Moore still ran the most route, the highest route percentage, 100% of dropbacks. So what are we doing here? This is a 1 week sample, even slightly bigger than Kenny Pickett's sample, but 1 week. Do we think I don't think anybody out there is thinking Corey Davis is number one, but I think the biggest question here is Elijah Moore officially still the 3, and we have legitimate concerns about Elijah Moore.
That's the biggest takeaway that I have, Jake. Yeah, it's very crowded. There's no way of really knowing who the number one guy is going to be. They're all running very similar routes and playing snaps. Elijah's leading the way, like you said, but I don't know. Like there's no real reason to trust any of these guys as, a wide receiver 3. If you have one of them, I think once we get into bye weeks and injuries are going to happen, you can play one as a flex. Corey Davis is scoring touchdowns this season. Last year, he looked pretty good with Zach Wilson before I think both of them got hurt and they were separated at times from each other. But I think the highest ceiling still belongs to Garrett Wilson. But yeah, this is very crowded. It's something we said at the start of the season. Why is Elijah going so early and Garrett is going so late? It's very crowded. They're all very similar to each other.
And I loved Elijah Moore.
Whatever you have. I like Elijah as a player too, but he's not the clear-cut number one in this offense. He's just not. These guys can't be trusted as wide receiver 2s and 3s. That's it. So it's gonna be highs and lows from everyone. Next week might be Elijah. Next week after that it's Garrett. And be back to Corey.
Elijah Moore is getting dropped. So let's say Elijah Moore is on your waiver wire. You have all 3 of these guys. Do you drop any of the 3, all 3? Which ones? Elijah Moore is sitting there. And you had a draft where you're like, man, I'm sitting pretty because you know why? My 2, 3, and 4 wide receivers are DJ Moore, Allen Robinson, and Darnell Mooney. Ha ha ha. I won my draft. So do you drop any or all 3 for Elijah Moore?
I could see myself dropping Allen Robinson for Elijah Moore.
Mooney? I'm not buying into just one game.
I'm not buying into one game either, but I'd probably hang on. I think the Bears will have to throw.
He was already off my team, so now I'm not making the swap back.
I mean, these are guys I'm not starting.
DJ Moore
I wouldn't drop, but I'm not starting him. There was some rumblings with the quarterback. Rule called out, he was kind of saying, basically blaming DJ Moore. I don't know if you heard that. DJ Moore was like, well, what, did you hear Rule say that you're not open? Baker needs you to get open. And he's like, it's all relative. It's like pitch and catch at the end of the day. I'm open, right? Just kind of throw me the ball. And then we started to see a little bit more, like Moore was getting more involved last week. Just said Moore a lot there. I would just be patient with DJ, but again, adjust your ranks. Like it's just like we did for Alvin Kamara. Alvin Kamara's not RB1. DJ Moore's not a wide receiver 2. I think he still has the value to be a flex guy. Maybe 3. Maybe he could be a 3. But I'm not dropping him. I'm just not starting him. I feel better about his long-term outlook than I do Allen Robinson or other guys that you just kind of toss out at me.
DJ Nevermore. More like this.
Oh, man. It's too bad because he is good, I think.
The problem is...
I know he's good.
You know what the problem is?
Brutal.
Baker Mayfield, not any good.
He's not an upgrade over what they've had, man.
There was no. I said this to Pat Mayo yesterday. I want somebody, please, because I will call you the smartest man alive. The smartest man alive. I will call you that if there is somebody out there in the United States, in the freaking universe, who said that Baker Mayfield was going to be worse than Sam Darnold for the Panthers. I want to see that tape. That person deserves credit. You know who else deserves credit? All of you for listening to us. I appreciate you guys. We'll be back on Monday. Recap show. Tweet at Chris Meaney, at All In Kid if you need some more lineup help. Check the rankings on the site. Check out FTN code All In, get you 20% off. And congratulations once again to the winners. I did get the contest. The Xbox contest winner did contact me. So sorry, second, third place. Don't get to trickle down to you guys. Sending that out today. Sending out the T-shirts that I had still remaining to you guys today, including the Canadian. But they're paying the shipping. So we'll see you later.
Peace.